summer you can feel the beat of a distant drummer so strong with pride. Side by side we shared a social changing tide. Got to run as one now, it's begun. Feel the beat, different drum and closer ranks, and give our thanks to the spirit up above. It's our children's children I'm thinking of. They've got to know they can rise above 100 years of quiet fear and press for the mark. Got to run as one.
We're trying to shape Sturgeon Lake the way, we would like to see it. It's a hope or it's a dream that we have. This is what I think the intention of this, the whole process is to try and how are we going to change it so we start to appreciate, some of the things that we have here on the reserve. We have people out there that can speak Cree, they can teach their young ones. We have people up there that know music. We have people out there that can, do the powwow singing, the dancing. We have all that talent. How are we going to utilize all this talent and put it together? Maybe from there we can build, and we can start actually doing, a different type of growing, And I think that has to come in hand with what Journey Towards Empowerment is trying to do. We're trying, we're trying to empower people to take their own responsibility, to become responsible people and start, doing things on their own, realizing a lot of things.
You were born with a dream and with hope.
Initiated started from Sturgeon Lake, the journey of empowerment. All the sharing the stories of the residential school, the child welfare system. And from there, the development of this social work course unfolded. And what's unique about it is the Sturgeon Lake people are involved in the process in educating and making aware of what happened on the residential schools and the issues. I will always advocate and say, hey, you need to look at my community because I did not invent the residential school system. I did not invent the Indian Act. I did not invent the child welfare system. But it was imposed on us. And the reality is that we never dealt with issues like it was the buildings were never there. The sisters and the priests never ran around chasing children around the buildings. And we're starting to slowly adjust that in our program, in the journey to empowerment. These are my relatives. You see the TV in the background, the log cabin, and it's there. This was the last of the residential school. St. Francis Xavier. This is where I went to school, kindergarten.
And this is where I jumped from this platform down to here and I ran away. I got off from this top window, got onto this thing, and slid down here.
Did they find you?
Yes. Because I never run from the law.
Maybe you could help me. Is this the boys or the girls?
That's the boys
in our
our
class.
school.
The classroom on the right-hand side.
Boys here,
Yeah, and
and these are the classrooms.
I went to the Dimray St. Martin's Residential School for 3 years. I was a happy, smiling young boy and living in a community. And I remember the grandmothers and the grandfathers and my mother crying, and I was wondering why they were crying. Because I was going to this shiny yellow bus and thinking it was like a vacation. And I was gung-ho and I was waving to my mom and she was crying. My parents and my grandparents attended the residential school, so they knew what was to come and what was going to happen to us in the residential school. And we were being dropped off in Droussard and off we went to Wabasca. And I stayed there for 3 years. during that time things happened, and the violation of my spirit, the whole abuse thing, and the witnessing of young children who spoke Cree from the time they were born. They had no English language whatsoever. They didn't knew it. They only spoke Cree, and they articulated and they concise, and they knew what they were saying. And the sadness of their eyes. I always remember the sadness in their eyes of them trying to speak English. I was a lucky one in that sense that I did learn. I knew what the English language was. At least I can, carry on a conversation. But unfortunately, the young children really suffered, and they used to get penalized, and they used to get strappings, and the continued verbal abuse of saying you're a sinner if you speak in your language. That repetitious, ongoing, like it was continuous to the whole years that I was there. And when I left, I left when I was 14, 15 years old. And by the time I was 16, I became a full-blown alcoholic. And I think people who went to the residential school can really experience this, because you're raped many times over. You didn't ask for it. They rape the core of your existence. They take things without asking. You're young and don't know what it is all about. You take love as lust, and you don't care who you sleep with. It didn't really matter. It just didn't really matter, And it continued like that for a good long time, 20 years. I came out of the treatment center and learning about the sweetgrass and the elders' teaching, I had pride. I had pride within my spirit that nobody will ever violate me again, ever. I always believe in second chances. Somewhere the Creator maybe thought, no, this person is unique, this person is special. He needs to walk his moccasins several more times. I still have the book when I was in grade 10, where I said, the teacher asked me, write something what you want to do with your life. And I wrote, I want to be a professional social worker, I want to go to university so I can help my people. Today that information is being kept by the lawyer, which is now enforcing my court case and litigation. Because I had a dream. I had a dream to be a professional social worker. And it has come to that. Through all that, I always looked at the community, the elders, the faces, the children, and how the residential school has affected our lives. And I'm a believer that the solutions are waiting in Sturgeon Lake. A lot of things have changed regarding, in the short time that the journey of empowerment have initiated. Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation has their sharing circles, and I've been attending 2 of them. And it's unique because I have some of my siblings who attend those sharing circles. I wasn't even aware of that. And the many times that I sat coffee and have bannock or dry meat with them, I've never heard them talk about stories about the residential school. There is stories out there, and many, many more. And I think somewhere along the way we have to start addressing those issues, and I think in the long run there's going to be a lot of litigations happening from First Nations people, First Nations adults who were in care or something, that kind of thing, because it needs to occur.
There are things we don't say, and I know there are things we don't do.
We have uncovered some deep emotional scars, but like many a time, you have to pull the scab off the wound in order for it to heal. You can't see me behind my glasses. I don't hide behind it. I had some laser surgery done to him and his eyes are still kind of susceptible to light. You don't realize how much you've helped us in your own ways by making us talk about this, making us realize the acceptance of what has happened to us, and you've helped us on our journey to empowerment. Unveiling this heinous crime that is, crimes have been, because in my opinion it's a crime. Because any time you take something away, you steal something away from a certain individual race, you're guilty, and who's to pay? The victim pays. These young native children, they don't necessarily want to go in the bush, but they want to come home. And yet, I've listened to some other symposiums where they say, hey, we have to reintroduce these children back into their own society and stuff, but this has been 10 years and they're still being sent away. It reminds me of just bureaucracy, the same way as it was with when we had the Indian agent. Every time you ask the Indian agent a certain thing about policy or whatever, they say, oh, I'll make sure I get back to you. And they never phone you back. You don't know. You know, you get lost in the paperwork. I think that's what's really hurting us. People now, us residential school victims, is we ask the question, why? And now I find it like a responsibility on my own now to go home and to try to reawaken my real true values now, you know, and go and take my children by the hand now and say, hey, let's reintroduce this circle of light which was supposed to have been there all along. The one that I have lost. The one I'm trying very hard to regain. And it's not an easy process. It's very easy for me to come along and say, hey man, I accept what happened to me. I accept this. But then I go home and I don't practice what I preach. Sometimes I lay awake at night and I was thinking, how am I going to address these people tomorrow? I have to be honest with them. One time in the presentation I actually got scared. I got scared, I got goosebumps on my body, felt like crying. I seen the pictures of the schools. It reawakened the sadness, the anger, the hurt, reawakened just because, like that one lady said, that big empty room is like the big empty heart I have.
He started the healing last time in Jerry today. And that's a big help. And maybe that's a way of helping each other with other people. It's not just the native people, but the ones, you know, together. Maybe it's easier for them to start talking to. That is one way, because he started. He couldn't have told it to us. It's just us in there. But in an environment like this, he was able to open up. And the start of his healing, and same with Jerry. And I'd like to thank you for listening to them. And you could see where the problems have lied. Like he said, I've been in every ditch, and there is a lot of ditches in Sturgeon Lake. And but yet he became our chief. Once he went through that, why can't we do it all? The rest of the people, and if we are there for them, maybe Sturgeon Lake will be healed. That's my vision, to see it be healed, because there's so many of them that are crying out there. Nobody listening. We don't know how to approach them. We listen, but we can't approach them because we don't know how. But maybe together we can.
Will your sorrow fall?
positive thing I seen on the reserve these past couple of years was more people are sober, you know, because they see role models on the reserve. There wasn't that many way back then, but now there is. And with my grandchildren, when I'm around, they don't drink, when I'm around, so I try and be with them all the time, so that, it's sort of, these people wanted to go somewhere. We had two vehicles, and then they wanted to go somewhere, so I brought them home. No booze, no nothing, and they sat around on the floor, on the chairs in my dining room and living room, and I just put a bag of dry meat there, and that was our party, and they called it Pansawan party the next day. And then they went home about 1:30, and that was that. So I felt good about myself doing that. The next day, some people were coming there to ask for Pansawan. I said, I gave it all.
I had mostly educated myself was through workshops, able to help myself from being a real negative person, ignorant. And workshops and going back to school, those were the things that I had to retrain myself. I had to go back as a child to learn all these negative things, like even saying thank you, please, where I used to say, well, you give me that, or I want that, give me that. I was always a demanding person. There used to be a lot of parties going on. I was part of the one people that liked to party. You couldn't see a light on in a yard light right away. You just think it's a big party happening now today. You can put your light out there, and you'll be lucky to find a house that had a party. I guess all in all, it's educating, attending workshops like what we have here today, taking part, sharing. Yes, I was able to go and take that camp out too. I've never tried making dry meat, but I did some of that, and it was good practice, and I enjoyed it. Like Lena was saying, I wouldn't mind having some moose meat too, and get a rack and start making it, because now I have a little bit of skills on that one too, but I'm not afraid to try whatever it is that I want to know and learn.
We've come to establish committees that handle different things. I sit in the Family Services Committee. And then there was another lady that was talking about having campouts and drying meat, picking berries, drying fish. That is one of the things that what's going to happen here this week. It's supposed to start today, but we postponed it for 2 weeks. And that'll put us right into the moose rut, so the elders such as that gentleman sitting over here can take part in the things that he loved to do when he was a young man, like call moose. I seen him do that. He was one of the better callers. And the old timers would entertain themselves by picking up the drum and just singing. And that's, to me, that's a lost art. And they would have fun and tell stories and different things. I've sat and listened to some old timers that have passed on. Of course, I see ups and downs on certain things. But I guess it's depending on the people what they want to make of what it is that they want to work on. Then we still have to survive and pass the teachings.
Well, I just see the culture coming back by some elders presenting their pipe ceremony, and that's a long procedures to wait, and then that's the way we do it. But then between that, those changes, when you change, there's somebody coming to you, and you're dealing with that today. And then you deal with that, and then after that, it's kind of like a closure thing. And then just dealing with that and getting that off your chest, you can deal with other people. And then kind of make it feel like you're healing and you dealt with something deep. And then an arrow is pulled out of your stomach there. And by getting that, going through that, you know, I'm just going by myself in the bush, and by myself, sometimes I wonder about, you know, reminiscing. I wish the boys would be beside me. Do something, a good thing like shoot my moose.
I was in mission for 10 years in London. And then I came out, we got married at 17. Didn't know nothing. Didn't know how to cook.
We have a school in school here, I guess they have Cree classes and stuff like that. I don't know if they have anything for adults, but I could understand it, but I can't speak it fluently. So except sometimes I can't understand what they're saying, so if somebody comes up to me and starts talking Cree, I'll nod my head. Oh yeah, they could be calling me a name. I have 4 daughters, and I told the mother there, I said, I don't know enough Cree, so you're going to have to teach them Soto. So they all speak their own language, and that's a good thing. I didn't want them to lose their culture like I did. Because I lost, like I don't understand, I used to, as a kid I guess, a little bit, but I went to a home when I was 4. I was about 16 off and on most of that time, and almost. When I first went home from a foster home when I was young, I couldn't understand a word.
What I would like to, in my time, to see is people, not being afraid of people. There's fear, scared to talk to people, scared the trust isn't there. Like I know way back then, like for me, I can remember like people would come to the road and say, hi, what's your name, where are you from? Come in, have coffee, come in, rest up, even just walking a little ways today. I would like to see that happen again, just feeling free, no fear of anything, just saying how we feel, and as children to feel safe, where you can actually sit down with a child and say, hey, you know, someone teaching the language. And that used to happen way back then. With my grandparents, give us a needle and a thread, here's a button, sew this up, and chit-chat, telling us the things of parenting, like, things I would like to see, like also with the elders, just don't have to shut themselves up, because they do too have stuff they would like people to listen to their stories. They'll say, oh, look at that bird, you know. Some days there'll be a certain one singing, oh, it's going to rain. And I say, how do you know? You know, just by a certain little bird that's singing in an odd time or something. And so now sometimes then they call that little rain bird in Cree, and that's what I would like to see, is just acknowledging the people. I guess the thing I'm thinking about is,
You were born with a dream and with hope in your eye. The elders have led you and have bid you to try.
Child of water, rough with green, child of the journey, walk with me.
Just getting back to, like I was raised with my grandparents, and it hurts to talk about it because they're not here anymore. I think I want to see for myself, my grandkids, being there with me like the way I was with grandparents, because they were really into the culture, and my grandmother actually taught me a lot of things, and like we used to go berry picking and maybe driving and stuff like that. And I think I'd want to see that again for myself and also other families. I want to see the closeness back the way it was. The children playing and having fun together, and the people laughing and sharing and having get-togethers, like being together.
The things that I seen at the cultural camp were good. Like, you know, it was almost as if, you know, the people acted different, the people were different. Not like up here, like, you know, in everyday life that we see them. But in the cultural camp, they were just laughing, having a good time. And these things can happen, you know, you can learn from each other. I would like to see our chief and council more involved in our community, more involved in the caring of our people. When I come back 20 years from, you know, today, I want to be able to see a community that's unified, that can be together, that can discuss things together, that can work together, opposed to fighting against each other. If we could take our negative energy and turn it into positive energy, the things that we can accomplish are phenomenal. Like 20 years from today, we're going to be able to say, yes, there has been some changes happening. That's because we were part of those changes. We wanted to change our lives, so our lives changed. But my hope, my dream, is that, you know, our children will be ours. We don't have to send them anywhere else. We'll be able to take care of them. We will have elders that will actually help us. Like, we have to learn to live and to walk our talk. We blame a lot of these changes on a lot of things, on the environment, on the way we grew up and everything else. Like, if I don't have a Cadillac, I can't give it away because I don't have it. It's the same thing with our feelings. If we don't have any caring within us, we're not going to be able to care for other people. So we have to, that's, I guess, is the most important component we have to work at. It's us.
See the tools that'll help you win through the culture that you live within. Children of the
thoughts of possible solutions, gatherings, provide us education. We educate ourselves to the way we want to be, behavioral patterns, change because of the gatherings, because we see things, or hear things that cause us to think. Some of the solutions are on the political arena that need to happen. I think people need to really start thinking about what is it that they want, and how are they going to be able to help whoever comes into power. Because bottom line, the chief and council that we elect, they need help just like everybody else. Like, they can't run a multi-million-dollar business and not know what people's thoughts are. We have to, in our schools, like, you know, in order for us to change the school, we have to develop a curriculum that'll fit Sturgeon Lake, that'll be recognized by the government so that, you know, we can use it. Sometimes we feel like we hit a blank wall, and, you know, we never think change is going to happen. Yet when we listen to other people, like if I go to Grand Prairie, if I go to Edmonton, if I go anywhere, like, you know, And they tell me, oh boy, a lot of good things happening in Sturgeon Lake, you know? And I don't see those things, you know? But they tell me about them, and then, you know, after I think about them, and I say, well, hey, yeah, that's right. It's starting to happen now, where people will say, well, have some tea, have some coffee, have something to eat. You guys have the answers to all the changes that need to happen. There's so many things that I'd like to see happen in Sturgeon Lake. But I know in my lifetime it'll never happen. Or I might never see it happen. But that doesn't matter. I think as long as we strive for something, it's bound to get better.